Nidam yata vinimayo yatra trisargo marsha. Dhamna swena sadana rasta kuhakam satyam param dimahi. Hari Om Tat Sat. So I hear we're doing Srimad Bhagavatam, ninth canto, chapter 4, verse number 55 and 56. The context is the Ras Muni became angry because he wasn't honored appropriately in his estimation. And his anger became too much, and he attacked Ambarish Maharaj and attempted to murder him. But the Supreme Lord had already had one chakra there that was situated near Ambarish Maharaj to perform the work of chastisement so that Ambarish Maharaj could remain absorbed in bhajan and wouldn't have to be preoccupied with the affairs of chastising, which takes a lot of energy. And so when this apparition that the Ras Muni summoned by his siddhi, mystic power, to kill Ambarish Maharaj came, the chakra immediately, it was just situated nearby, it immediately came and destroyed the apparition. And then it began chasing the Ras Muni. So the Ras Muni is looking for shelter from the chakra. So he is flying here and there, wandering all over the cosmos, looking for shelter. This is reminding me of another verse. And he first goes to Lord Brahma seeking shelter. And Lord Brahma says, I cannot give you shelter. So disappointed, he goes to Lord Shiva seeking shelter. And that is today's verses. And so Lord Shiva has some words for him as well. So that's what we're going to hear just now. I'll share my screen. We can look at the verses. So this is the verse. Disappointed from in his attempts of seeking shelter from Lord Brahma, he now goes to Shiva. So this verse is describing that. Pratyakyato virichena Vishnu chakro pitaha Durvasa sharanam yataha Sharvam kailasa vasinam. So when Durvasa, who was greatly afflicted by the blazing fire of the Sudarshan chakra, was thus refused by Lord Brahma, he tried to take shelter of Lord Shiva, who always resides on his planet known as Kailasha. So the next verse. What does Lord Shiva have to say to him? Shri Shankara Uvacha Vayam tata prabhavama bhumni Yasmim pare nye pyaja jiva koshaha Bhavanti kale na bhavanti hidrishaha Sahasrasho yatra vayam brahmamaha. Lord Shiva said, my dear son, I, Lord Brahma, and other demigods who rotate within this universe under the misconception of our greatness cannot exhibit any power to compete with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For innumerable universes and their inhabitants come into existence and are annihilated by the simple direction of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada's purport. There are innumerable universes in the material world, and there are innumerable Lord Brahmas, Lord Shivas, and other demigods. All of them rotate within this material world under the supreme direction of the personality of Godhead. Therefore, no one is able to compete with the strength of the Lord. Lord Shiva also refused to protect Durvasa, for Lord Shiva also was under the rays of the Sudarshan chakra, sent by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, Vayamna Tata Prabhavama Bhumni. So he refers to Durvasa Muni here as son, Tata. Tata is like an affectionate address that a father would say to his son. And the Rasmuni is actually, in fact, the son of Shiva that is described earlier on in the fourth canto. So he says, my dear son, so Vaya na prabhavama bhumni. We, um, so this we, he says twice in the verse. So who is this we? We'll come back to that. Na prabhavama bhumni. We cannot compete with the power of the great Lord. Bhumni. Bhumni is a word that refers to the Supreme Lord, the great Lord. Bhumni. Not prabhavama. We cannot compete with him, which means we do not. Which means to say that the power that pursues you for your rectification is the power of the great Lord, Bhumni, and we are subordinate to that power. So therefore, we do not have power to counteract to counteract that power that pursues you. In other words, though you are you're looking for shelter, the power that pursues you, we're not able to protect you from that. In other words, we're not able to give you shelter. That is what he wants to say. So, who is this great Lord and who are we in relationship to this great Lord? So, he goes on to explain that. Yasmin Pare. So, the Lord is the transcendence. Yasmin, in whom Sahasra Yatra Bhayam Brahmamaha. He is the transcendence in whom the thousands of universes, Yatra Bhayam Brahmamaha, in which we are wondering. So this we is coming again. We, Vayam Brahmamaha, we are wondering. So who is this we? So we means me, like Shiva, and Anye, Pyaja Jiva Kosha, and others also. Who are the others also? Aja. Aja refers to Lord Brahma. And then other jivas. Aja Jiva Koshaha. Other jivas Koshaha. So this word Koshaha is translated as universes, but um, from the commentary of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, we come to understand Kosha also means the coverings of the jivas. So coverings of the jivas are described in Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad, as Anamaya Purusha, Pranamaya Purusha, Manamaya Purusha, and then Vijnanamaya Purusha, that is the soul. And then above the soul is the Supreme Lord. He is known as Anandamaya Purusha. So, anyway, not going to the great details of this passage of the Upanishads, but this passage of the Upanishads wants to demonstrate how the Supreme Lord, Bhagavan, subsumes all subordinate realities. And so it does so by taking us from the gross to the more subtle. A process called Arundhati Pradharshana Nyaya. Apparently, when in Vedic culture, after it was common after a lady was married, that they would try to point out to her one star called the Arundhati, because this star, I guess, gives blessings or auspiciousness to newly married couples. I think that's the reason. So, but it's not easy to find. So they have to point out other stars first and sequentially help bring the vision of the bride to the right star. So they first point to a set of stars known as Saptarishi, and then one of the stars is of the Saptarishi stars is right next to the Arundhati. So in this way, they sequentially take the bride's eyes to the Arundhati. So there's a nyaya called Arundhati Pradharshan Nyaya, which means you want to you want to bring someone to a particular conclusion, but it's a little bit subtle. So you bring them sequentially from gross to subtle. So in this sequence of the Taittiriya Upanishad is trying to do that. It wants to help us understand the supreme subtle reality, Bhagavan, by first drawing us from grosser realities to more subtle realities. So the most gross reality is called as Anamaya Purusha, which means Purusha means person. So the person that is Anamaya, Anamaya means basically made of food. It refers to the gross physical body, which is requiring the food to exist. It's called Anamaya Purusha. So this is the grossest of the grossest part of our, you can say, existence. So interior to this gross manifestation is known as pranamaya purusha. So the purusha that is replete, the word maya means like composed of or consisting of or replete with. That is the meaning of the word maya here. So the pranamaya purusha, the person that is replete with prana or consisting of prana. So prana means the vital force. Without prana, then one cannot do anything in this material world without the. This generally translates as we translate it as like life air, but it is even more subtle than life air. Prana comes from many sources like the sun, the sort of foods we eat, water that we drink. And without prana, then the gross physical body would not be able to function. So you can say the prana maya purusha is interior to the gross body, and it is you can say it is the soul of the gross body. Just as the physical body, we say, will not be able to function without the soul inside, right? So just going a little bit more detailed than that, the pranamaya purusha is like the soul of the gross physical body. Without prana, the physical body cannot work. So interior to this pranamaya purusha is the manamaya purusha. So that is the person consisting of mind. So the word mind here, of course, is representative of all aspects of the subtle body. The manas, the buddhi, the ahankara, and the chitta. These are the four aspects of the cognitive body or subtle body. So this is called as manamaya purusha. It is the interior to even the pranamaya purusha body. So it is like the soul of that body. Interior to this subtle body is the jiva itself. So the jiva is called as vijnanamaya purusha. He is a purusha consisting of vijnana. Vijnana means consciousness. It doesn't just mean that he is the jiva who is possessing consciousness, and not just consciousness itself. But the jiva who possesses consciousness is known as the vijnanamaya purusha. So as we know, that Vijnanamaya Purusha is the soul of even that cognitive body, which is the soul of that prana body, which is the soul of that gross physical body. So superior to this, Jiva is the Supreme Lord. So he is known as Anandamaya Purusha. He is the Purusha that is consisting of bliss. He is bliss itself. Known as Anandamaya Purusha. So this Vijnanamaya Purusha, this Jiva, is having these other coverings on him. What coverings? The manas, the prana, and the ana, right? These three. The subtle body, the prana body, the gross physical body. These are called as kosha or coverings of the jiva. So aja jiva kosha. So we jivas in this material world, we are covered by these different forms which we identify with. That's why they're called as purusha. He said, how is it a purusha? It is just an inanimate thing. It is called as purusha because we identify with it. That is why it's referred to as purusha. Most people strongly and deeply identify with their gross physical bodies, such as the animals, and insects and so on. Then there are others who strongly identify with their subtle bodies, like the human beings. So they're called as purusha or selves or persons because of that identification with them. So those who are covered by the universe, ajajiva koshaha, we have these coverings on us. So brahmamaha, we are wandering in the material world, hither and thither because of those coverings. So again, the context here is Shiva is explaining that we don't have power to compete with the Supreme Lord. So who is that Supreme Lord? Well, he is the transcendence in whom the thousands of universes in which we are wandering. So who is this we? Well, we are the jivas who are covered by these different koshas. We have these different coverings on us. And due to those different coverings, Brahmamaha means to wander or to rotate. The word Brahma also means to be bewildered. So that's why Prabhupada translates it like this, that we are, we who rotate within the universe under the misconception of our greatness. That translation is actually following us, Sri Vishwanath's commentary. Just as a sidebar, when translations in Sanskrit are done into English in Prabhupada's purports, he often takes elements of the commentaries of the acharyas and weaves them into his translations. So Sri Vishwanath's commentary mentions that we are wandering due to the illusion of our greatness. In other words, we think we are great controllers, but before the Supreme Lord, we are shown to be insignificant. So we are Brahmamaha. We are wondering, why you are wondering? Because of the koshas, these koshas that cover us and we identify with them. Now, this is spoken in humility. Someone's going to ask, well, I thought Shiva was this, that. He is speaking in humility. So that he is showing his position as subordinate to the Supreme Lord. That is his intention here. He is not trying to, yes, that is his intention there. So we are wondering, Brahmamaha, we are wondering due to these koshas, we identify with them, and they are causing us to wander hither and thither in the material world. And we are Brahma, we are also bewildered by these koshas. So we think we are great. We think we are so smart. We think we are always right about everything. And that's why we are wandering hither and thither in this material world. And we'll be lost like this also perpetually, this wandering thing, unless we get sadhu sangha. Now I'm adding this little extra element here because without the association of sadhu, you cannot stop this wandering. So there's a problem here. Durvas Muni has a problem, right? What is his problem? He is wandering all over the universe, quite literally, because one chakra there is chasing him, isn't it? And he wants to stop wandering because it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating to be forced to wander, not only due to bewilderment, but the process of wandering is also itself bewildering. I know for at least when I was growing up, oh my God, I remember moving. I must have moved like until I was 15, into my sophomore year of high school. Like we must have moved from house. I felt like we were moving like literally every month or every other month. We were moving to a different place. And it was very bewildering. By the time you finish unpacking at one place, it was time to pack up again and move to another place. So it was a quite bewildering situation to have to wonder. And I remember even being embarrassed sometimes because I was I would participate in after school programs and I had friends who would drive me home and I had to give them like a new address like every other month. Okay, actually it's not this way. Now you gotta go this way. So the process of wandering very frustrating, bewildering. So the Rasmuni is wandering. He's very frustrated naturally. And Shiva is saying we are also made to wonder because of the bewilderment created by these koshas. We are also wandering hither and thither. So how to stop this wandering process? So that process of wandering can be stopped by sadhu sangha. And of course, this is going to be the redeeming element in the Rasamuni's story. He's looking for protection from the chakra so he can stop wandering. But his protection will come only in his redeeming himself before Ambarish Maharaj. In other words, in taking shelter of sadhu, only then he can stop this wandering. So this is a big theme that comes up in Bhagavatam, that only when you get sadhu sangha, then you can stop this wandering. This wandering is due to what? Jiva kosha, the covering of the jiva, anamaya purusha covering, pranamaya purusha covering, manamaya purusha covering. So there, we're made to wonder, and if we want to stop this wandering and the frustration and suffering that comes along with it, which is the chakra chasing us, then that can be done only if you do sadhu sangha. If you get sadhu sangha, then you can stop. So I have some few verses here for this idea. They're very nice. This is the first verse I thought of. This verse is coming in a chapter of 11th canto known as Aila Gita. So the whole purpose of this chapter is to contrast the difference between asat sangha and sat sangha. That is the purpose of the chapter. It is the prayers of what is old dude's name? He got Urvashi. I can't remember the Urvashi's lover. What was his name? King. Ayla is one name, but he has another name. I can't remember his other name right now. It's lost on me. So Urvashi dissed him really bad, and he was really hurt by that, and very much impact. And but finally, when he came out of his bewilderment due to being preoccupied with sex life with Urvashi and so on, then he begins chastising himself and repenting his foolishness. And then in the course of repenting his foolishness, he begins on glorifying sadhu sangha. And in one of the verses, he says this thing: Nimajon majatam ghore bhavadho paramayanam santo brahmavida shanta nordridhe vapsu majatam. So the devotees of the Lord, peacefully fixed in absolute truth, Santa Brahmavida Shanta, are the ultimate shelter. Parama Ayanam. They are the ultimate shelter. The Parama Ayanam, the supreme shelter. For those who are repeatedly rising and falling within the fearful ocean of material life. Nimaja umajatam ghore bhava adho abdho. So we're rising and falling, not only physically, but also metaphysically, right? Rising and falling. Physically, you may rise to some nice position in your corporation, or you may rise to some nice position in this material world by going from earth planet to heavenly planet. Or metaphysically, we rise and fall all the time, isn't it? Maybe from day to day, who knows what will happen? We are rising. We have good sadhana practices. We manifest good character. We respectful, and then we fall from that position, acting like clowns and fools and rascals in this material world. So we are rising and falling physically, also metaphysically, in this very scary material world. Ghore bhava abdho. So who is the supreme shelter from this? That is the santaha, the devotees. Brahmavidha, they have spiritual knowledge. They very deeply realize. Shanta, they're peaceful because of that. Nodri devapsu majatam. They are just like a strong boat that comes to rescue persons who are at the point of drowning. Very nice statement. What is the statement saying? That you can stop this rising and falling, aka wandering, by the mercy of sadhu. Another verse is coming. Very nice verse. You see this word Brahmato is also used here. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that the root cause of Krishna Bhakti is sadhu sangha. Krishna Bhakti Janma Mula Hai Sadhu Sangha. So he wants to quote 3 verses. He will quote 3 verses to justify this statement. And the first of the 3 verses he quotes is this one. This is a very important verse. Jiva Goswami has nice elaborations on this verse. Bhavapravargo brahmato yadhabhavech janasyatar hyachuta satsamangama. Satsangama yarhita daiva sagdato paravareshe tvayijayate mati. So the jivas who are wandering, brahmato, when their time for wandering is about to end, bhavap apavarga, and they're getting qualified for the liberation. Then at that time, janasyatar hyachuta satsamangama, they can get sadhu sangha. Satsangamo yarhi tataiva sagato. From that satsangamo yarhi, when they get sadhu sangha, tada eva sagato, then precisely at that time, tada means then. So yarhi satsangama, when they get sadhu sangha, tada eva, precisely at the moment when they get sadhu sangha, parava vareshe twai jayate mati. Jayate mati. Jayate means like birth. What is born is mati, awareness, Krishna consciousness. Mati means, the word mati means consciousness, it means intelligence. It's translated in different ways. Jayate mati paravareshe. Paravareshe is a word that refers to the Supreme Lord, who is the cause of superior and inferior manifestations. So they become Jayate mati. Tada eva, precisely at the moment when they get satsanga, precisely at that moment, Jayate mati, they develop Krishna consciousness because sagato, because the devotees, sat, are the gateway, gato, through which Krishna enters into the life of a person. Or sagato means that the devotees are one who is having the goal of their life, gato meaning here the goal of their life as the Lord. So either translation is given by Jiva Goswami. So the idea is that as soon as you get sadhu sangha, then you will become Krishna consciousness. And then you become eligible to stop your wandering. That is the idea. Then you become eligible to stop your wandering. One other shloka is there. This is the one I was remembering just at the beginning of the class. this from Devaki's prayers to Krishna right after he appears from her. So she says this thing, this one. Martyo mrityu vyala bitapalayam. So Martya, this material world known as Martya Loka, everyone here destined to die, no matter what countermeasures you take for it. This is everyone's destiny here. So because we live in a place of death, Martya mrityu vyala bhita palaya. So mrityu vyala bhita palaya. We are all wandering or running. Palaya means running from the mrityu vyala bhita. We're running from the serpent, the black serpent of death. Everyone. Where are we running? Lokan sarvan. We're running all over the lokas. Everywhere we are running. Lokan sarvan. Everywhere we are running. Again, wandering, right? Now, this verse, you can put the Ras Muni's image in your mind. Then it becomes super clear. Because death is literally chasing him, not as a black snake, but as a chakra. So the chakra chasing him. He running. Where is he running? Lokan sarvan. Everywhere he's running, looking for shelter. But wherever he goes, nirbhayam nadya gachat. Wherever he goes, one cannot get freedom from fear. So the Rasmuni is running here and there, and he's looking for freedom from the fear of the chakra. But wherever he goes, he's not getting free. He's not getting any freedom from that fear. He goes to Brahma, Brahma, I can't help you. He's going to Shiva, Shiva, I also can't help you. After this, he will go to Lord Narayana. Lord Narayana himself said, I cannot help you. Wherever you go, you cannot find shelter from this chakra or Mrityu Vyalabhita, the serpent of death. Tat padhabjam prapya drichayadya. However, if one attains your lotus feet, tat padhabjam prapya, if one obtains your lotus feet, how? Yadrichaya adya. Yadrichaya. And one attains your this word yadrichaya in short refers to sadhu sangha. So you'll see in the word to word meaning, Prabhupada translates it as the spiritual master, Guru Kripa, Krishna Kripa. If someone attains your lotus feet by getting sadhu sangha, that is the idea here. Then shusta shete mrityu asmana paiti. Then that person can sleep with mental peace, and death itself will flee from that individual. It will be seen in just a moment in this pastime that indeed, when the Rasmuni takes shelter of sadhu, then death flees from him. Death in the form of that chakra leaves him alone. Of course, Ambarish Maharaj will offer some prayers to the chakra. Then the chakra says, all right, I'll not kill this guy. So if this wandering problem is to be stopped, then it can only be stopped by finding refuge in sadhus. And in a certain sense, not even the Supreme Lord directly, in a certain sense, but in sadhus specifically. So he is looking for shelter, right? And Lord Shiva said, we cannot help you. We do not have the power that pursues you. We cannot counteract that power. That power is the power of the Supreme Lord. He is the transcendence in whom thousands of universes, in which we ourselves are wandering due to all the coverings of the universe, the koshas. We are made to wonder. Bhavanti kale na bhavanti hidrisha. This is the last line. And these universes are bhavanti, they come to be, and come not to be, na bhavanti, in time. That means they are manifest and destroyed in time. That is the power of the Lord. And we are just helplessly moved by these processes. The Lord unfolds the universes, and we're like, oh. Then he unfolds the universes, and then we're like, oh. And like this, we're helplessly moved by the unfolding processes of the universes. And we're just made to wonder while the world is unfolded, we're made to move hither and thither due to all these material forces, which subordinate us, biological forces, psychological forces. There's sociological forces, and we're all just like playthings in the hands of these forces for the most part. But if we get sadhu sangha and we use that minute agency to take shelter of the Supreme Lord, an agency that is, you can say, empowered by our association with sadhus, then we can stop this problem. The problem of bewilderment and the problem of being forced to want go hither and thither, not only externally but also internally, not only physically but also metaphysically, because of these koshas. So that can be stopped only in the refuge of the sadhus. So that will be the message that is just now coming. Someone may ask, well, isn't Shiva sadhu? But he is not being approached as sadhu, for starters. And second of all, in Durasmuni's particular case, his protection will have to come from his redemption before he whom he offended, and that is Ambarish Maharaj. So that will be another message that comes up also. Supreme Lord will give it. So that's what I could do with that particular verse. I was asked last minute to give class, so I did the best I could. I'm going to stop there. And if anyone wants to ask any question or add to the conversation, yeah, Pururva. Pururva, thank you. Ananda Bihar, I couldn't remember his name.
Hare Krishna JJP, Dandavat Pranams, reading. I'm going back to the concept that you brought up at the very beginning of class. And sorry to be so technical. And if you, I'm still processing it, and perhaps you could correct my logic, and also answer my questions. First, I'm not a Sanskrit scholar or very familiar with Sanskrit. Typically, I just focus on the translations. But from my just general time in Bhakti, the word prana is actually very rarely used. It's more Shakti. And we understand we're the Shakti of Krishna. And Shakti also meaning energy. And I understand that, say, the Bhakti schema and say the Hatha Yoga system, their terms might mean something a little different, like chitta will mean different something in the Bhakti schema and the Hatha Yoga schema. So I was just curious if you could elaborate on the actual relationship between Shakti and prana, because in one sense, when prana is used in the Hatha Yoga system, it sounds almost like soul. It's like the life force, it's the life there, someone's chi. But if I were to kind of marry in one sense, it sounds like perhaps prana is a symptom of the existence of the soul, or prana is a symptom of the Shakti, or I'm not sure if they're interchangeable. But yet, when I say that, it's quite odd because you had mentioned that prana is necessary for the maintenance of the gross body, but yet one can get prana through the sun, through air, which you would say doesn't have a soul, or through food. And through the food aspect, you would say the reason even in Ayurveda, one must eat as closely as possible to, I guess, say picking of the fruit and vegetables, because then the soul had, in my mind, the soul has left. And so therefore the prana will leave soon too. Therefore, the farther out you eat, the less prana there is. But could you, I guess, comment on any of that logic and I guess clearly delineate the difference between prana and Shakti? Thank you so much.
Well, there are different types of Shaktis. One Shakti, a major category, is called as Maya Shakti, that generates the material forces. And prana is just one of those forces that are generated from the Maya Shakti. So generally, the way prana is translated when we use it is like life air. It makes it a little bit easier to think about. And the soul is understood to be encapsulated in these different airs inside the body. So when there's death and the soul is leaving one gross body and going to another, the prana also goes with him, along with the subtle body. So two things: subtle body goes, and prana also goes. So what this prana is exactly, I don't know, honestly. But it's a subtle energy, and it's the energy that is energizing the gross form, among other things. And the soul is understood to be kind of circulating, and these pranas are understood to be circulating kind of like around the soul inside the body. So basically it is, Shakti as we use it, at least the word Shakti means a type of energy that generates things or causes things to manifest or being causes things to move. And prana is a type of manifestation of this external Shakti, or material energy. And it's one of the coverings of the soul. So it's not the soul. I don't know exactly how Hatha Yoga Pradipika is. I've not studied Hatha Yoga Pradipika, how they're using these different terms. They may have different ways of explaining it. But I would suspect, because yoga tradition is based on Sankhya philosophy also, that they have a very clear Sankhya is a dualistic school. So that means Purusha and Prakriti. That's what they said. It's dualistic. There's Purusha on one side, there's Prakriti on the other. So prana is a manifestation of Prakriti. And the Purusha is different from that. And the whole purpose of yoga is to get out of Prakriti, right? That is the purpose of yoga. So ultimately to become free from this prana, this pranic body, right? As we were discussing today, or from Taittiriya Upanishad, it is a type of covering on the soul. So there's a clear distinction between the two. This prana body is also a covering, and one is wanting to get free from that also.
Thank you so much.
If there's time, the Rasa committed an aparad and fortunately had an opportunity to rectify. Is there an amount of Vaishnava aparad that could completely destroy one's bhakti lata? Um, Assuming they've already started the bhakti process. I know nothing material can affect bhakti, but aparad is spiritual, right? I think we have to be careful about how we word that. Yeah, sometimes we have heard it described that, like, um, impious activity is like sins of the body, and aparad is like sins of the soul. So aparad basically means that which courts the displeasure of Bhagavan. That is the basic understanding of aparad. Is there an amount of aparad? So we want to stop it. Uh, there is, you can say there's an amount. For Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he describes the difference between namabas and nam aparad as just a degree of um, degree of aparads committed, or the degree of anarthas contained in one's practices of bhajan, particularly non-bhajan. So non-aparad means, a lot, and namabas means relatively less in comparison. So I guess you could say there's an amount that can completely destroy one's bhakti. I mean, I don't know about completely destroy. If you kill a Vaishnava, which is one of the aparads to avoid, go figure, you can really cover it for an extreme long time. So in the Madhurya Kandambini, Sri Vishwanath gives the example of um, like coming under a strong fever, right? And taking some time to come back to wellness. So if you commit some really heinous aparad, then for many lifetimes you may be under some strong fever, like a sickness, where your bhakti is covered for quite some time. But as you say, it is correct, bhakti can't be destroyed. So, it can again reemerge, just as when you're sick by fever, but you take proper medicines. You have good doctor, he prescribes proper medicines and proper diet, and you follow that, then gradually you can come to health. So you may be under some fever for a long time, but again, you may get some opportunity, some sadhu sangha, and in that sangha you rectify yourself gradually. Good practices and good mentality, and then you gradually can come back to health. So yeah, at least from the Madhurya Kandambini, I think you'll read about it in the third or fourth chapter of the Madhurya Kandambini. It won't destroy it, but you can cover it for a really long time if you commit some very heinous operads. So one should try to not do that. A little dangerous. Okay. Does anyone else want to ask anything before we go? Or say anything, make any comment? Okie dokie then. I think I'll stop there. Thank you all very much for tolerating me this morning and acting as my guardian angels by allowing me to share some Harikatha with all of you. Some nice ideas from Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Gaudiya Guru Varga ki jai, Go Premanandi Hari Hari Bo.
Thank you so much, JJP. Hare Krishna.